Hi there, I'm Fiona.
I'm Fred. Welcome to the BWorld Truck Studio. We are quite excited today to have a look at the new Incognito Recovery 40-ton heavy wrecker that's here in our studio for this photo shoot.
This is a nice truck. This machine is a 2022 conventional.
Done out in a nice anodized aluminum green, it's a true flat-top sleeper on a grand hauler frame.
Today we'll do a nice walk around
and show you some of the highlights that this rig has to offer.
What started off as a box of parts left over from the last build,
in the true Incognito style,
it went just a tad overboard.
It really has resulted in a fine example of a wrecker that is a great place to hide out in.
Speaking of hiding, what you see here is advertised as a C15 Caterpillar diesel.
And the folks at Incognito built and installed most of the plumbing necessary to make it go. It has a good number of silicone bellows and a cheap imitation of an intercooler.
With the plumbing needing bellows to hook up the various pieces of pipe, all of this was fabricated in the Incognito shops on the Mars resin printer.
The plumbing is a decent representation of the real thing.
And the block was lowered almost 1 centimeter to accommodate it.
Of course the paint got burnt off the exhaust side of the turbo 10 minutes out of the shop.
And the diesel should last a few hundred feet more since Incognito installed a sweet dual remote oil filter housing with proper cat filters.
That is, if the part number is actually correct.
The front end is adorned with a nice 1 centimeter drop axle to accommodate the super singles that were stuffed in the wheel wells.
The chrome air cleaners are the nice laser units that have full LED lighting, and the printed firewall keeps it all in check.
The front end sports a beautiful true-scale Texas bumper in the old style with 21 LEDs, only slightly complicating the programming for the Bayer SRF1 controller network, since 21 doesn't divide by 2.
But that's not important right now. The garden trucking old-school headlight castings have 3 surface mount warm white LEDs each, and provide a nice incandescent glow without actually illuminating anything, just like the real thing.
The hood is remotely controlled and powered so that you don't have to get fingerprints on the paint,
like we have been doing all morning.
In case you didn't notice, the hood is driven by a small linear actuator under the floor of the cabin.
Did we mention that the hood is motor-driven?
Hey look. Fingerprints.
There's some bling covering the air tanks, with a few more LEDs to accent the battery boxes, cover up the fact that there's no air tanks and to fill some space.
The mirrors are color coordinated and have a wind deflector with chicken lights. The stacks are 2 mm shy of 13 feet, barely legal, and are nice thin wall brass tube, with the lower curves are printed in nice resin on the Mars.
But that's not important now. All of the interior, seats, dash, steering was printed in the Incognito shops on the Mars resin printer and the Ender filament printer. There are 2 high bass speakers which are mounted in a proper enclosure, and this assembly is mounted to the base of the sleeper. The speaker orientation has them pointing down through the sleeper floor,
as they should, and the enclosure is not just for containing the speakers, it provides a nice mount for the battery. The whole sleeper is on a slider mounted to the back of the cab, allowing the whole assembly to be easily removed to access the battery for the truck. It's also easy access to the back of the cab, but since nobody uses it, that's not important.
Below that we have the ugly tanks. These were also crafted in the Incognito shops, and are not made to reflect any specific prototypes, foreign or domestic.
The story is they were on a truck in the yard and it wasn't being used that day, so they got borrowed.
Behind the sleeper is the electronics cabinet. The buyer lives in here, as well as some of the control parts, the RC switches and the micro motor controllers,
as well as the breakout board from the output of the Bayer. This board is the controller for the truck's motor, sound system, and almost all of the lighting.
The vast majority of the wrecker body and parts were printed at the Incognito shops.
The boom extends 100 millimeters, raises and drops. The underlift is powered as well, and replicates a Miller one quite nicely.
There are 2 powered winches with nice RC4WD synthetic cable, both of them more than capable of lifting something.
Yeah right.
There are 2 powered outriggers to stabilize the rig if it were ever actually used.
But that's not important now. With 4 high-powered work lights, 2 on the warning flasher arch and 2 on the boom itself, the work area can be illuminated nicely.
The lights can also be put to good use blinding the vehicle behind if they get a little close.
The truck has 191 LEDs, and 4 strobes for lighting effects, while the Lisu warning flasher on the arch has its own driver. The 4 strobes are on their own driver.
The rest of the truck is controlled by the buyer. There are 3 modes: off, on, and flashing.
The headlights and tail lights are on their own switch, as are the work lights. The underside is a haven for the wiring and parts to make it go. Fred is under there someplace.
A whole lot of this truck was printed in the Incognito shops, and the fit and finish is now well adorned with a lot of fingerprints.
It was our pleasure here at BWorld to have a look at this fine piece of machinery today, and we hope you enjoyed the walk around.
Thanks for stopping by. See you next time.
See you next time.
Alpha.